All right, President-elect Donald Trump and his supporters taking aim at the Obama administration's recent actions towards Israel. Trump counselor Kellyanne Conway saying last night that help is on the way for the country.
It's so important that Israel and the Middle East and the rest of the world know that we will have an incredibly strong relationship between the U.S. and Israel. And Mr. Netanyahu knows that, Ambassador Dermer knows that, and we just want the world to know that. I thought this vote over the weekend was clearly just remarkable. I mean, it was such a break with U.S. policy, and it was just so weak.
But Conway is not the only critic. Democrats, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, are now condemning Secretary Kerry's speech. Here to weigh in is Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and author of Electoral Dysfunction, Alan Dershowitz is here. Alan, it's really good to have you here this morning. You know, I spoke to you a couple days ago on the Kelly file, and you talked about the amount of this sets us back as far as progress on peace. Where are your thoughts at this morning?
Well, to me, the most amazing thing is that the Prime Minister of England, Theresa May, condemned the Kerry speech, said it was one-sided, said there was much too much of an emphasis on the settlements, and said an ally doesn't condemn voting in another country the way Kerry said Israel is moving too far right. To have the Prime Minister of England being more supportive of Israel than the United States. And guess who didn't report this? The New York Times, in its fake news on Israel, failed to report this dramatic story of May condemning Kerry, and then has a story today saying only right-wing Jews condemn Kerry. Hey, I'm a left-wing liberal Jew. Schumer is a liberal Jew.
Yeah, hello.
You know, they just make up the news, the Times, all the news that they think is fit to print. But if they don't think it's fit to print, they don't publish it. On Israel, they're so unfair.
Is this setting up for a
one-sided.
big divide within the Democratic Party? I mean, just referencing Schumer himself. Coming out against John Kerry.
It does, and if they now appoint Keith Ellison, who worked with Farrakhan, to be chairman of the DNC, you're going to see a lot of people leave. I'm going to tell you right here in this show, and this is news, if they appoint Keith Ellison to be chairman of the Democratic Party, I will resign my membership in the Democratic Party after 50 years of being a loyal Democrat. I will still vote my conscience, and mostly I'll vote for Democrats, but I will not be a member of a party that represents itself through a chairman like Keith Ellison and through policies like that espoused by John Kerry and Barack Obama.
Wow. Do you think, Alan, that the timing of this is politically motivated for this very reason? That John Kerry, that we would have never done that in terms of the veto on Friday. We would have never heard John Kerry give that speech if it was before the election for this very reason.
Absolutely.
Because you literally have, and I'm quoting Eli, or paraphrasing Eli Lake in one of his columns, you would have had commercials running say, Jewish people are banned from living in Jerusalem, and Israel no longer has claim to holy sites.
Well,
and we watched genocide in Syria. That's the foreign policy.
Well, not only wouldn't it have happened before the election, which shows how uncourageous and how undemocratic this is, because he does it at a time when Congress is out of session, when there's nobody to check and balance him. It never would have happened if Hillary Clinton had been elected, because President Obama wouldn't have wanted to tie her hands. This is revenge not only against Netanyahu, it's revenge against Donald Trump as well. And the ultimate victim is not Israel. The ultimate victim is the peace process. It's going to be so much harder to make peace now. The Palestinians have already said they're not going to negotiate except under the provisions of this UN Security Council resolution. Now, it's also wrong. It's not illegal for Israel to have control over the Jewish quarter, which was captured from them illegally by Jordan, which made it Judenrein throughout all the Jews, desecrated the synagogues. Israel captured it back in a defensive war. They have legal control over that. Even the West Bank. The issue of legality is very complicated because Israel didn't take the land from the Palestinians. They took it from Jordan when they fought a defensive war against Jordan. Palestinians weren't even in existence as a people at that point. It's complicated legally. This should be resolved politically, and it should be resolved fairly. We should have a two-state solution, I believe, but with Israel's security paramount, and it can be done. But Kerry and Obama have set back the peace process tremendously.
But enter Donald Trump, because Kerry is obviously making these remarks within a month of Donald Trump getting into the White House. So what would you like to see? I mean, what is even within reach for Donald Trump to do once he's in there?
Two things. One, he should announce immediately we reject the UN policy. Number two, we accept Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and we will put our embassy there. The idea that Jerusalem is up for dispute, that Israel has to negotiate about the Western Wall and about Hebrew University and about Hadassah Hospital, that's the position.
Are you
of the
confident
Kerry
Donald Trump, as he says, things are going to be much different come January 20th once he's in there? Our relationship with Israel going to improve under President Trump?
I surely believe that. He certainly has indicated that. And I think the point is that Dennis Ross wrote a book a few years ago in which he showed that when America supports Israel, Israel makes concessions. When America doesn't support Israel, Israel gets its back against the wall. And so I think Trump will, A, support Israel, and B, Israel will make more concessions and be more open to making peace. It's very open. Netanyahu has already said, no preconditions, come, negotiate. Israel offered the Palestinians a state in 2000, 2001, 2008. You didn't see that in Kerry's speech. Again, fake news. Kerry's speech, fake news. He doesn't mention the real facts. He should be nominated for the Academy Award for a fictional screenplay.
Right. The peace process ended when in spring of 2014, right? Peace negotiations collapsed. There was the unity government between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. And even though Israel vacated Gaza, all of its settlements in 2005, there have been 3 wars by Hamas that they have started since then.
That's right. Not only that, but Israel had a freeze for 10 months. The Palestinians said, if you freeze settlements, we'll negotiate. Israel froze settlements, 10 months, no negotiations. They finally came like a week before the freeze was over and said, now we're ready to negotiate. Right. They have not shown good faith. They will not utter the following words: we recognize Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people, which is what the UN resolution of 1947 set out. 2 states for 2 people. The Palestinian leadership will not accept that 1947 resolution. They don't accept Resolution 242 of the UN in 1967. They love this new resolution because it's completely and totally one-sided, as was Kerry's speech.
All right, Alan, we want to get to this news as well. Turning to President-elect's appointments, incoming press secretary Sean Spicer says President-elect Trump will wait until after the inauguration takes place to announce picks for the Supreme Court. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's right. You know what I hope he does? We have too many, they're my colleagues and friends, but too many judges and professors on the Supreme Court. We need some practical, practicing lawyers, people with some legislative experience, people with some real-world experience, people who've been in the courtroom. So putting aside ideology, conservative, liberal, I think the Supreme Court needs people who have lived in the real world and can bring real-world experience to the Supreme Court.
What do you think of a potential Trey Gowdy candidacy for Supreme Court judge? Don't
know enough to comment. I just want to see people who can bring into the isolated chambers of the Supreme Court some real-world experience.
All right. Alan Dershowitz, good to see you. Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thanks for being here.